There are two more things I want to hit on. In the book, you talk about heart rate variability, which is essentially the unevenness between the heartbeat. And it's a good window into recovery and the parasympathetic nervous system response. How are you gauging the amount of workload that the people that you're working with can handle? Are you using HRV? How do you know you're doing too much? How do you know you're in the sweet spot? How do you apply that with your patients?
That's a great question. And this is, I think, part of the future of medicine and sports performance training is this notion of stress management.
Yeah.
And what heart rate variability, what it basically shows us is it answers the question of how well are you, this individual standing in front of me, how well are you able to keep up with all of the stressors in your life right now? You know, if you're just like holding on to keep up with everything, you don't have as much bandwidth to adapt to these subtle changes in air pressure as you breathe, and you don't have these minor fluctuations in your heart rate. Whereas if you are able to keep up with all that, then you have more bandwidth to adapt to these subtle changes. And so heart rate variability is a great measurement. So we look at a couple different things. That's a big one. You know, if we look at someone's HRV status when they come in for a session and we see like, dang, they're really in a stressed out state, we may have a more recovery oriented session with them that day. Over time, we also, you know, for people who have these wearable devices that track their sleep, track their HRV, we have them do that. We just completed a study with BioStrap, who makes this one that I'm wearing on my wrist.
Wow.
It's the best clinically validated of these, you know, relatively inexpensive wearables. They're within 1% measurement of the gold standard of electrocardiogram. So like when you put electrodes all over the body and measure
That's
the
called
electrical activity
BioStrap.
of the heart. Yeah. So
Cool.
they have, you know, we worked with them and we saw that doing sessions on the newbie, that people increase their heart rate variability. They decrease their resting heart rate without doing any cardiovascular training at all. Also improve sleep and arterial elasticity, so blood flow and blood vessel health. And so, you know, all of that factors into saying looking at heart rate variability is something that we like. We don't always look at it within a session. Sometimes it's, you know, sometimes there's a little bit of a delay in feedback. We'll do something that day, see how their numbers were that night and the next day, and then dial it back in the next time they come in. So sometimes you get real-time feedback. Sometimes it's, you know, a day or two, and you have to kind of start slow, see how much they can handle, walk up to that line, and you also have to factor in the stresses, you know, in there, because someone one day, if they've slept well and eaten well, might be, and it's, you know, a weekend or something, might be able to handle a lot more than if they come in the middle of a week when they have a deadline, if they just, you know, had a fight with their spouse or a fight with their boss at work or something like that, and they didn't sleep well the night before and they're sick, you know, they're going to be able to handle way different amounts of stress and input on those days too.